all these lies that they were writing. And so it got to the stage where I decided it was time for me to write the truth about what was happening at these parties. And I had the truth. And I remember just looking out from my 8-ton truck, bar, looking out over a sea of like 15, 20,000 faces. They'll never stop this. They'll never stop this. It was the first time that raves had been written about in Mixmag. And so they sent me to Sunrise the next month, and I wrote 3 pages on that. And I became their raging reporter. It was him, Vin Diesel, and he was like, it was a bouncer at the Tunnel Club in 1987.
Wow. Okay. Look at that, Mr. Kirk Field. So there you go. This is going to be the book of the summer. I'll tell you the stories that are in this. It's gonna make the last one look like a kid's fucking party. I'll tell you now. I'm going to send you a couple of snippets after for you to have a chuckle at. But this is going to be, everyone's going to be talking about this book in the summer. Believe me.
So you're telling me that these have just arrived this morning before this podcast?
No, this afternoon after about 1 o'clock. About 1 o'clock. So literally, this is the DJ promo. There's only 25 of them. And so what happens is I send these out to Norman and Jules and people like that. And that's how I get these great quotes that the DJs gave me. John Digweed, people like that. So I'll send these out. And there's only there's 5 or 6 chapters in there. And it's like a sampler. It's like a DJ sampler. So I'm treating my book like I treat a record.
Promo.
So so there'll be a DJ promo. And then there'll be the normal mix. And then there'll be an extended mix. And so there's different things that I'm doing there with it. So, and it's great because obviously my readership respond to that. They know exactly what a white label is, what a DJ promo is. So it doesn't matter if there's black and white photos in there rather than color photos. That's someone's arm that was
really interesting.
Yeah. So it's a new way of doing books. So it's like literally a very, it cost me like £4.80 to produce each one. And I've got 25 of them. And
Fantastic.
I send them out to people just to get those reaction sheets back, just like you would do with a record, but no one else has ever done it with a book before.
That's such a clever idea. Let me go all the way back to the beginning. First of all, where are you from?
I grew up in the Lake District.
Right.
Yeah, and I went to college in Leeds because I was into goth and I used to wear eyeliner and black lace and things like that.
Did you really? Okay.
We all did. It was compulsory in the early 80s, Dexter. And so I did that, and then I ended up working on the soft cell videos, and that's how I first got my first break in London. I came to London and just went out every night to gigs or to clubs and just stayed out all the time. 6 nights a week I'd be out, and then the 7th night I'd stay in and wash my hair and then do it all again. And that's how I started getting involved in club culture, back in the early 80s.
And what was your first experience of acid house and rave? What can you remember that?
Well,
I can very, very clearly remember my.
Well, yeah, it was a full start, really. I talk about it in the second book, which I'll come to. It wasn't mentioned in the first book because what I talked about there was when I was working as a barman. And we ended up doing a gig which I thought was an equestrian centre. I just thought it was a private kids party, and it turned out to be Energy Rave in 1989. But there was a time before that I went to a first kind of house music club, and that was the Tunnel Club in New York in 1987. And I hadn't a clue what was going on. There's all these Puerto Rican girls in cages and blokes with their shirts off, just dancing but not looking at anybody. And Junior Vasquez was playing behind the decks. This guy called Junior Vasquez. And I got talking to one of the security guards about it, and I was like, "What's this music?" And he just laughed. He goes, "What do you mean? What's this music?" I said, "What? I've never heard this kind of music before. What is it?" And he goes, "It's called house. It's house music. Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from London." And he went, "So house music hasn't come to London yet?" He goes, "But believe me, it will." And I got talking to him, and he was an actor who was just doing some stuff at the club, and he was literally working on a Friday night and a Saturday night at the club, but he was an actor. And years went by, and he'd got this really gravelly voice. And then I was watching this film, and I recognised him. I was like, "That's the guy. That's the security guard I was talking to." And it turned out to be Vin Diesel.
No way.
Yes, it was him, Vin Diesel, and he was like, it was a bouncer at the Tunnel Club in 1987.
My word, what that? Well, that's I'm a bit speechless by that. That's because he's come on to be like a phenomenon, isn't he? Really,
Just unbelievable. But he was really, but then when I was writing the book, I was writing it up, and I was thinking like, no one's going to believe this. I wonder if he's ever gone on record as saying that he likes house music, or he used to go there. And I found, sure enough, he did used to go there, and also that he cut a track with like Mike and the other blogger. What's he called?
oh yes,
Vegas.
yes,
like Mike,
yeah,
Vegas, Vegas or whatever.
yeah. It's not my sort of music.
It's
but yeah,
not mine either.
I know exactly what you're on about. And when it comes to London, obviously that must have been within the next 24 months. It must have come over there, a couple of years. And can you describe the moment when you realised it had started to land and that rave culture was developing?
Well, yeah, when literally we'd go over it. We got, as I say in my book, that every single Saturday night from June to October in 1989, I was at the biggest party by accident rather than design, because we were the bar and we were very important to have to go there. So we'd get the call, once the security had secured the venue and the sound truck was in there, we'd get the third call, because you can't have a party in the middle of nowhere without liquid, without water. And so I had a ringside seat to that wonderful summer, that summer of love that happened. And I remember just looking out from my 8-ton truck, bar, looking out over a sea of like 15, 20,000 faces. And we watched it exponentially grow, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20, all the way up to 30,000 every single week. And we used to look at each other, myself and Adam, the guy that I worked behind the bar with, and we used to go, they'll never stop this. They'll never stop this. And we knew that. We knew they'd never stop it because people were experiencing unity for the first time. And that's very powerful. It's a very powerful glue. And so that's why someone had come along to Sunrise, and the next week they bring along 5 friends to Energy. And those friends would all bring along 6 friends to Genesis or Be Out Biology the next week. And that's how it grew, quite literally, virally, that summer.
Wow. So, and then all of the misconceptions started coming in through the press and the media. What were your first thoughts of some of the press releases that were being dropped in the sun that were coming out then?
I couldn't recognise the party that they were describing, because I'd been at that party all for 18 hours.
Yeah.
And then we dump the stuff off, dump all the unsold stock back, the Ribena and the Lucasade and the water. And the next day we'd get up and we'd go down to this Greasy Spoon Cafe in Mill Hill East, and we'd treat ourselves to a Greasy Spoon big fry-up breakfast. And on the way there was a newsagent's, and the newsagent's had like this A board outside, and it just said like, worst acid house party ever. And I'm like, what? And so we always used to have a thing whereby I went to the newsagent's and picked the papers up, and he went in and ordered the food. And I went in, it took me ages, and I carried about 6 papers that day. And he was like, well, fucking, what are you buying all the papers for? I'm like, look at this. And I threw them all down, and we'd made every single front page. But then we started writing about what they'd written, and it was like children as young as 14, taking the mind-bending drug ecstasy, all these lies that they were writing. Naked women writhing around in ecstasy, and it just wasn't true.
Youngsters so drugged up, they what? And no more answers from you. Give the other people. Security. Youngsters so drugged up, you're not going to get it apart from this guy here. Rip their heads off pigeons. Honest truth, they rip their heads off pigeons. Have you ever tried to catch a pigeon?
And so it got to the stage where I decided it was time for me to write the truth about what was happening at these parties. And so I borrowed my girlfriend's typewriter, and I just typed out with two fingers, like I do. I always type like that, and sometimes just with one finger. But all you need is 2 fingers and the truth. Like the jazz musician says, all you need is 3 chords and the truth. Well, all you need is 2 fingers and the truth. And I had the truth, and so I sent it off to a number of magazines and periodicals, including The Face, who weren't interested. And then I had a call back from a guy called Dave Seaman, It was an editor of a magazine called Mixmag that I'd heard about, and I'd sent it off, but I'd never seen it because it wasn't available to the public in those days. It was just something that DJs in a club called DMC used to order. And they rang me up and said, "Can we run your feature?" And I couldn't believe they actually wanted to pay me for the privilege. And so I said yes. And the response to it was unbelievable. It was the first time that raves had been written about in Mixmag. And so they sent me to Sunrise the next month, and I wrote 3 pages on that. And I became their raging reporter, not through me having any career desire to be a journalist. It was just...
And you'd never written before, no?
No.
Wow.
No, I got an English O level, but I hadn't taken English at degree level.
Yeah.
But as I say, all you need is the truth. And once you've got the truth, you've got a passion. Obviously, I've got a bent for it. I've got some sort of a gift for it. People are really liking my writing, which is humbling. But I didn't know that, I just literally, when I was sent, it was so random. Dexter, it was so random. So literally, I'd be on the dole, and then the phone would ring. It was always the phone in those days. There was no internet.
Yeah.
And it was like, "Kirk, it's Dave Seaman from Mixmag. What are you doing next week?" I'm like, "I'm signing on Tuesday and picking my dole check up on Thursday. Why?" And he goes, "Right. Do you want to go to Moscow next Thursday for 5 days with Guru Josh and cover the first rave in Russia?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I've got to wait for my dole check to cash. What time's the flight? Oh, don't worry about that. We'll wire you like 150 quid advance for the payment, but you've got to get a visa." So literally, I'd go off to the Russian embassy in Notting Hill, get a visa, and get on a plane with Guru Josh and just find myself in Moscow, Soviet era Moscow, and covering this rave. And I was like trailed by the KGB. Just one thing, kids, anyone thinking about being a journalist, if ever you go to an authoritarian state, a totalitarian state, and it says profession on the visa, don't write journalist.
Or blogger.
Oh, blogger.
They
think you're a spy. And literally, they followed me around, trailed me around. I had one of these one-way mirrors that they were looking at all the time, which must have been... It was kind of backfired on them because I had sickness and diarrhea the first night I was there. And so I was pebble dashing the whole hotel suite from both ends. So they probably filmed the whole thing. What's it called? Compromise, compromised material. I had all this. So that the book, the first book, Rave New World, is just capturing all of the things that really happened on those trips overseas to Tunisia and to Croatia and to Russia and to Ibiza, because I wasn't able to really write the truth for Mixmag because it all involves me getting up to mischief.
Now, how did the UK rave culture differ from like other international cultures?
There was it's an interesting story. Like there was that universal language of house and unity and non-judgment, but it's like it was just a bit staunch. It was a bit like in Germany, it was a bit more serious. It wasn't kind of loony. England has got like a what's the word? An eccentric trait in England, and we've got a great sense of humor. Like if you think how we've like the Crusher Kids, you think about that, or Sunday Central, and it's all very fluoro and sort of unhappy and things. With Germany and Central Europe, it was kind of darker and a lot more serious. And I think they're a lot more sort of techno orientated.
Still to this day, really. I think if you look at Berlin now, it's still very serious. Techno, and it's I think there's a bit more fun and tongue-in-cheek vibe within the UK, and especially Ibiza back in the day. I'm not so sure now with the Instagram era. I think that's obviously changed the way they behave with the rave environment.
I love dance music. I love club culture. I've made my life. I've made it my living, and it's been my life. I happened to make a living from it. It's great. I feel very honoured. But even if I hadn't made a living from it, and I had to get a job in a warehouse or as a taxi driver or whatever, I'd still love dance music culture as much as I do. But the biggest problem I found with it is it takes itself too seriously. And I've always, as much as I love those tracks and they move me, and I think there's great things, and I'll talk about unity and non-judgment and all of those kind of things. At the end of the day, it's a party, right? And it's about fun. And, my writings for Mixmag, my books, shot through with that kind of humor. And also, the songs I've written, there's a song called Sardines in Pacha, which I'll talk to you about later. The Bora thing, I did a poem about, and humor's never far away. And I think it's really important not to lose track of it and not to be too po-faced. And I think there's too many techno DJs in black T-shirts looking moodily down from me, on me from placards and roadside banners in Ibiza.
Yeah. I think we get the negative side, and also there's a lot of music snobbery, which I find a lot, especially towards the older sounds like the trance, and that's not trance. And then now it's happening a lot in techno with techno trance, melodic
trance,
melodic techno, whatever they want to call it. But
yeah.
Back in when you first were working for like the original raves, what did you see the authorities do to try and push back on it?
Well, it was put through to a guy called Kent Appenden. Kent Appenden was the divisional commander of Kent, and he had made his living. He had made his name striking miners from crossing the Thames to go up to Nottingham. So and they needed someone like that who could bend the rules. And by his own admission, Ken bent the rules. Roadblocks and things like that. They set up stuff they shouldn't have really done because we were bending the rules.
Everyone,
And so they knew, you got to fight fire with fire. And so they did that. But one thing that I've been really trying to I've come so close to exposing it. I've exposed anecdotally, but there's no written record of it. But we are sure, everyone that worked there that summer on those raves was pretty sure that their resources that they were getting were phenomenal. The success that they had, the amount of resources they were given, they were working with MI5, MI6, it was incredible the kind of resources that police, the Acid House Squad.
And why? Why were they given those resources?
Good question. I think that they say it's all come out in the wash because I did some research for the book at the National Archives. They were saying that it was basically noise complaints against Tories sleeping in the home counties. In actual fact, there was other things going on as well. There's for the first time in 1989 and 1990, the amount of under 24-year-olds going into pubs and consuming alcohol for the first time dropped.
Taxes.
Yeah. So it was like we found another drug, a drug that was not taxed.
Yes,
that was a problem.
We often had this conversation at Strawberry Sunday, which you'll be familiar with. Strawberries never served alcohol. It was soft drinks and water only.
Yeah.
And we remember a couple of our friends got arrested with 20 little fellas or something. I think he ended up doing 9 years or something at the time. And I remember he was using it as an example. And we were talking about it in his unisex toilets at Strawberry Sundays. And we go, yeah, so-and-so's got 9 years. Just literally, he was just coming to the club to party and he didn't really have, he wasn't a grafter. And he ended up doing 9 years.
Yeah.
And we were having this discussion at the time, why are they being like this? And we're like, it's got to be the taxes. People aren't going to their pubs anymore.
That was it. And it was, there was a thing called the Parliamentary Drinking Club, which is a loose association of a certain amount of 8 or 12 MPs who were doing the breweries bidding for them. They were lobbyists. Lobbyists get paid by so Carlsberg or whoever will give them a certain amount of money to represent their interests in Parliament. And they didn't like the fact that, you had a generation turning its back for the first time on alcohol, choosing another way to modify their mood, and that didn't go down at all well. The police didn't mind. The police, we never have any trouble. They're great. They're polite. They don't. I mean, in the South, it was like a softy thing. On my last tour, I talked to 2 promoters. I do a spoken word tour, a theatre tour, and I talked to 2 promoters from the North. Rob Tissera, who you know.
I know Rob. He's coming on here. He's coming on here in a couple of weeks.
Great. Well, I won't steal his thunder, but he'll tell you the story of what happened. But basically, he ended up in prison through being in the wrong place at the wrong time. and a guy called Dumbarton Tommy, who put all the raves on in Blackburn. And they were both really clamped down on, by the gangsters or by the law authorities.
Both
and it's
sides,
like it was both sides. It was like a pincer movement, and it couldn't survive like it was. But for anyone who witnessed it in June, July, August, September, though that was a golden era which people will never forget, and it was utopian. There wasn't any fights. There weren't any stabbings or any toxicity or any problems. There was no security inside those raves.
It was just on the door.
We policed it ourselves.
Yeah.
There was no first. Do you know that the first aid was our bar? Because there was no St. John's ambulance or paramedics or anything like that. There was when the legal rave started coming in '92 with Rain Dance and Fantasy and Perception and all of those things, Vision. They had to, as part of their license conditions, they had to have paramedics and ambulances there. But back in the day, we didn't. So people would police it ourselves. If someone was in a bad way, they'd bring them over to the bar and we'd give them a bottle of water or look after them and make sure they're okay, walk them around or keep them cool.
We've taken people to hospital before. I remember that. We've actually physically taken them. And I know some of the more unscrupulous ones literally dumped people on the streets, get them out of it fast. Because I don't know if you know this, my father was involved with some of the was running as a lot of the original South Coast raves.
Oh, right.
He used to have a warehouse, and he was doing a lot of stuff in there. So I used to, as a kid, I used to see all this water arrive, pallets of it. And I'm like, what's going on here, Dad? And that was what it was for. So this has been. I've seen all of this where you're coming from. Now, I want to jump to the book that you have already released. Now, why did you write it? Why did you write Rave New World?
Number one, because I was suffering mentally, like I think a lot of people were in lockdown. I thought that I don't want to get into it. I thought the whole response was hysterical and not consistent and really damaging. And I got to a stage where I remember I was shouting at the television, throwing things at the television, and my wife just said, "For goodness sake, why don't you just go off into the garden and write that book you've always promised you said you'd write?" And I was like, "Right, I will." So I just went outside and I thought, right, what am I going to do today? So I thought, I'm going to write all my Rain Dance stories because I work for Rain Dance. So I just wrote 5,000 words, and I thought, wow, and that's that. And I sent it to a couple of people, DJ Face, Gavin, who used to play at Rain Dance, and a couple of other people. And they said, this is really good. I said, okay. All I did was just to pass the time initially. I had no plan or desire to be published. I didn't think it'd be published. In fact, that's a good thing, because if I'd known it was going to be published and thousands of people read it, maybe I wouldn't have been as honest or authentic as I was. And so you start writing. So I've got to about 20,000 words, and I'm like, right, you've got to have like someone in mind when you're writing it. You've got to think, who should I write this for? And I thought, well, my teenage sons, one at the time was I think he was 17 at the time. The other one was 14 at the time, or 12. And I just thought, right, by the time I finish this in a few years' time, rather than have that drugs chat with them, I'll just give them this book, and it explains to them what their dad did, and all of that kind of thing. And so sort of moving all this way. So they were my intended audience, and they kept me honest. They kept me true, because I wanted to talk about my mistakes. I wanted to talk about my recreational drug use. I wanted to talk about the good things about it, the bad things about it. And so it was almost like a confessional. I mean, it was called Confessions of a Raving Reporter. It should be called Confessions of a Raving Dad, really, because it was written for them. So that is why I wrote it. And from there, I think about 5 people read it and said, this should be published. You need to get and send it to an agent. So I just sent it to an agent, and he said, well, I want to represent this. And it ended up sort of coming out, but not by design.
I've got to congratulate you as well, because you released your book around the same time as a lot of other books of a similar nature came out. Danny wrote a very good book from Clockwork Orange. I know Danny, I owe him a lot, because he's a fellow sober, like
he's
myself.
A survivor.
He's a survivor. He was the first person I spoke to when I realised that I had a few issues with the alcohol. Brilliant. And he put me on the right path.
Great.
But there was a lot of books coming out at the time, and I thought, oh, it's just going to be another book. But yours took off. Yours especially took off, and it's got very, very popular. Thus, part 2. that we'll talk
Yeah.
about in a second. Did you expect it to become so popular?
Do you know the night before it came out? Obviously, it was when I realized it was coming out. I was so excited and I was made up and I was amazing. I'm going to get a book out. And then the night before it came out, I didn't sleep. I thought, hold on a second, what have I put in there? Are people going to think I'm a pillar? Are people going to think I'm just a knobhead? And so I didn't sleep at all, and I regretted it. I was like, it's too late now. I can't do anything about it. And so I braced myself, and it's
Fear.
and and then sort of 4 or 5 days later, a week later, people, I really like your book. And I've got to say that I'm absolutely staggered by this positive, the wave of positivity that I get every few days. I get a message from someone who I've never met, just saying, I've read your book, I've listened to your audiobook, and they tell me it triggers memories and it made them laugh or it made them cry. And it's just such an honor. But more than anything else, I'm not proud. I'm relieved. I'm just relieved that people don't think I'm a tit.
It's great. No, I'm glad that it's you've mentioned that it's refreshing people's memories, because I've been doing this podcast to go alongside our event series.
Yeah.
Every time I'm doing this, I'm having people mention stuff, and it's reviving my memory as well. So I think some of the brain cells did get a bit of a battering back in the 90s and 2000s, and I think a lot is forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And the question I'm always asked is like, if you were off it all the time, how could you remember that?
Exactly.
Really good question. So the answer is there's three reasons really. Number one, as much as though we say we can't remember anything, we remember the most vivid memories. We remember them. So I can't remember. I'll go down the shop and forget to get a pint of milk and some Bovril. But I'll be able to remember. I can close my eyes now and look out, and I can still see sunrise on the 24th of June, 1989, with a big wheel there on the right hand side, and the MC Kinky doing Everything Starts with an E. I can still see it. So the most vivid things you remember. The biggest problem was working out what raves they happened.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, a lot of ringing around. Like, what, that time we had the door on the floor, was that Energy? Yeah, it was Energy down in Beer Farm. All right. So I was able to do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that helped as well is my Mixmag articles. So I'd kept a certain amount of Mixmag articles, almost like a diary, upstairs in the loft, but not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. And I found because everybody had loads of time in lockdown, found a website called tracklistings.co.uk, which has got every single, it's like an online library. It's got every single Mixmag and DJ magazine, I think, that's ever existed. And I got in touch with a guy called Scott Brady. And I introduced myself and I told him I was writing a book, and he was so helpful. And I think he spent like a couple of days going through 5 years worth of Mixmags. And every time I had a feature in there or a little snippet of like some things I'd even forgotten, he'd scan it and he'd send it to me on an email. And so I had like 5.5 years of my articles and features there, some of which I'd forgotten about. And once you start, and I'd forgotten, for example, I went to Ibiza to interview Brigitte Nielsen. And I remember going, I went there, I forgot about that. And then, of course, I remembered then it triggers your memory about everything else. And so that really helped. Scott Brady, thanks, Scott.
Scott, you're a diamond.
Yeah.
Now, am I right in saying you used to go to Bagleys?
I was press officer for Bagleys. I was publicist. I'll help launch it. Yeah.
Now, I used to go to Bagleys a lot. My main club of choice in the 90s was Strawberry Sundays. I was there every weekend, no matter what. But we used to go to Freedom a lot at Bagleys on... was it the Friday? Saturday. I think it's when Strawberries started getting into a little bit of trouble with their licensing. We moved and we did a few nights at Bagleys, so we started going there. Yeah. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to speak to Kirk today about Bagleys. I can't remember anything about it. It is such a blur. It really is. And because that was going towards like my late university days when we were hitting it really hard when we went to Bagleys and the cross as well. And I wanted to ask you so many questions about Bagleys. And I was just like, I can't even... I remember the room to the right was slamming vinyl. But that's it. I can't remember anything else.
So I got a call from a guy called Kevin Millins, who's doing the Pure organization. And he wanted to... It was almost like the Dirty Dozen. You have these films and there's always a mechanic whereby they pick up... it's like Wimbledon FC in the 80s. Everyone that no one else wants... like waifs and strays and this kind of thing. So we assembled a team at Bagleys because they'd launched Home at the time. It was Home and
Yeah.
Ministry Sound.
Yeah.
And clubbing was becoming very corporate. It's Home. It was very, very cozy.
Leicester
Ministry
Square,
of Sound.
wasn't it?
And, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and so we wanted to return to the warehouse days. We didn't want to be VIP. We didn't want. So the concept was, and we sat down. I remember sitting down and going, well, are we going to do garage or are we going to do house? Garage is really on the way up at the moment in London, but then again, you've got house. And I was going, well, hold on a second. I said, there's a really big hard house scene.
Do both.
And so then it was like, I'll tell you what, why don't we do hard house downstairs, garage in one room, house in another? And it's like, yeah, what should we call it? And it was going to be called Magnifico, right? The Freedom was going to be called Magnifico. Because It was like a Spanish kind of Italian Magnifico. And we had the logo done and everything. And I think it was the week before the launch. And then suddenly I don't know how it was, but I think Debbie Lee, myself and Terry Harding were in the room. And it was like, what we're trying to do, well, what we're offering people is freedom. And a voice said, well, why don't we just call it Freedom? Like, perfect.
It is
call it
perfect.
Freedom.
Yeah.
And so we changed all the artwork at the last minute. Fucking the designer went bonkers with us because he had it all as Magnifico. It was all written very nicely in Spanish kind of red and white. And we just changed it to Freedom at the last minute. And it was so much the right move.
What an amazing club, though. I remember it was always doing me head in because we used to go from the hard house through the garage room. And I was like, what? And there was a completely different sort of person in there who went into their garage, into the other room, which was harder. Then you had people like Ariel playing.
Ariel played for 8 months.
Yeah. But I remember he was there at the time when I was going, and it was just amazing. Obviously, there was the cross over the road as well, and we used to go there quite a lot. So, what about your new book? I'm really excited about this, and you just received your DJ promo copies today.
Yeah, well, Rave New World it's gone down so well. I got 2 complaints about it. I only ever got 2 complaints: that there was no pictures in it, and that people finished it too quickly. Like, people would buy it for their holidays, and then they go, "Oh, I can't believe I bought it for my holidays, and I'm halfway through it. I can't put it down," which is a writer is a lovely thing for them to say.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it was cut down. I actually submitted 128,000 words for Rave New World, and there was only 80,000. It's you've got to cut it down to 80,000. I said, why? Or because people can't concentrate for more than that in that area. I'm like, that's rubbish. But I had to go with it. It was a major publisher. I had to go with it. And so there's 30,000 words there that I just got, I'll keep them back for book 2. A lot of stuff in Austria, snow bombing, all that kind of stuff I've worked on. And so there's 30,000 words there. And there's other things that happened since the book ended in 1999. So Rave New World starts in 89 and ends in 99, famously in Brian Ferry's motorhome on New Year's Eve in Greenwich. And so then a few months earlier than that, I'd set up a travel company. It was the world's first holiday company geared specifically for clubbers, right? So I'd go across the North Sea, we'd go to Dance Valley, I'd do things in Ibiza. And so all the stories that happened for the last 20 odd years, and there's quite a lot of stories there, I put them all together, and I put them together with the 30,000 words from book 1. And there's like this a compendium of chaos, and it's called Planes, Trains, and Amphetamines.
Great. And so they've done you kind of a favour knocking those 30,000 words back, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah, everybody else. So so that's it. So basically, I'll give you the thing. Rave may be the middle word in travel, but when Raven reporter Kirk created the Rave New World's first holiday company catering for clubbers, the Rave New World threw everything it could at him. 9/11, volcanic ash clouds, suspicious custom officers, avalanches, North Sea storms, pandemics, fraudulent accountants, and even Derek Acora. And so it's basically me trying to sailing on these choppy tourist waters, taking thousands of clubbers overseas and sort of looking after them. And it's all the kind of mad things that happen in the last 20 odd years.
Is there anything that you put in this book that you were worried about putting in the last book? Or because You just said to me before.
Yeah. There's 3 chapters actually. There's 3 chapters that were, and it's called redacted, were taken away, right? And those 3 chapters that are redacted are going to be in. There's going to be 2 editions of this. So there's going to be the paperback edition, but there's also going to be no one knows this yet, so this is the first time I'm announcing it. There's going to be a collector's limited edition hardback with photographs and 5 extra chapters in that you can't get anywhere else, including 3 of the redacted chapters from Rave New World 1. And that's going to be available only on the Velocity website, I think from mid-March it's going to be available. There's only 1,000 copies, and after that, we're not going to print any more. And so if you want those kind of hidden things, like My Night Out with Lemmy and things like that, then it's the limited edition version you want to go for.
My next question was, when is this book being officially released? Obviously, you have the promo edition for the DJs that you showed me.
It's going to be published on the 21st of June, which is the same as 2 years ago to the day, which is the solstice, which as a druid is an important time for energy to be it's thing at its zenith. However, it is pre-orderable from mid-March, and so if anyone's going on holiday to Ibiza in May or early part of June, you will be able to get a copy for your book for your holiday, and it's a great holiday book. It's a brilliant poolside read.
How was the response to your first book influenced by the way you approached this book?
It gave me more confidence to write my stories. Right, so the first time I was writing for my sons, and it just so happens that people like them, and I was like, wow, that's a relief. But now I've got like a freedom to go, no, they like the humour. I know what my readership wants. They want a bit of nonsense in there. They want a bit of mysticism in there. They want the truth more than anything else that they can relate to, because I'm just doing what they did. Maybe I can remember it or write it down better. And so it's just given me the confidence to just be myself when I'm writing.
So when your first book finished in 1999, the second book goes from 1999 to
2019.
2019. So you're leaving a bit of wiggle room then.
Well,
a possible third.
Yeah. Oh God! Don't even think about a third. Blimey.
Are you leaving a little bit of wiggle room there?
Well, there's not a lot happened since 2019 because of bloody COVID.
Yeah,
that's how the book ends. Obviously, I'm working in travel and I'm working in clubbing. COVID was particularly. I mean, COVID. I'm not going to say it hit me particularly bad because of people lost relatives and things like that. But in terms of, let's just say, if there was a queue of people to get back to work, people who did clubbing travel were right at the back of that queue.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. We announced all of our Ibiza seasons twice, I think, and none of them went ahead. So we were 2 years not working effectively, and I don't know how we managed to get through it, but we're still here now. I've got to ask one question. When did you first go to Ibiza then? When was your first year in Ibiza?
The first year in Ibiza was 1990 in January. And I didn't actually go to Ibiza.
January
1990. Yeah.
Okay.
I was working for a magazine called Evolution Magazine, which was it was an offshoot, a dance offshoot of Encyclopedia Psychedelica, which is like an underground head mag, right? And they sent us to. I stayed in this. We all went out to edit the magazine for 10 days. In this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in Formentera. We stayed with this German bank robber, this fugitive who was on the run from the German police. And he's in this middle of nowhere in this blooming, I think he was a forger actually. And so we edited, he had loads of inks and that kind of thing. So we laid out all the magazine in his farmhouse. And then literally I came back on the last night and I said, is any clubs open? Oh yeah, there's a place called Pacha open. I thought, oh, right. And I just thought, I saw these cherries. I thought, that's a bit naff. It's like some sort of a provincial nightclub in Doncaster or something. Yeah. And so, of course, I went along there, met DJ Pippi and told him I worked for Mixmag, and that was it. It was brilliant. So then I went back every year after that from 1991. And then the next time I was over, what I cover in the book was June 1991 with Brigitte Nielsen. And that's when... that's when I had the Berlin wallpaper incident.
What was that?
Well, you have to read the book. Let's just say it involves a discarded wallpaper and a sock.
I'm going to leave it as that.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably best.
What's the one Ibiza club that really inspires you or is the most magical for you?
I feel really strongly about this. I think that Amnesia has got a really special thing going on.
For me too.
I think if those people that can feel and kind of know, it's not about the sound system. It's not about. It's just something about that. But I think it's about the wood, and I think about it's about heritage that's happened there. But I think the energy is tangible at Amnesia. I think it's a very special place.
Far away. It just feels different. You know, it felt like space felt different. And I can't say what it feels like now because I'm not a big a visitor of high or Shire places like that. But it just felt when I went into space, it just felt all brand new and shiny, and it was just I love this place, And Amnesia, I feel exactly the same. And obviously we do events there together. We have the one this year as well.
Kevin and Perry?
Yeah, Kevin and Perry, which you guys are big parts of. We love it. And we are, I think we're the only event that opens early because of you guys. I mean, it goes off.
And I just love, and I just love it because I think I was outside and make sure my group gets in. I do a thing called Ibiza Trance event for people that don't know. And we have our DJs playing early doors, which is great. And you open at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I just like I think last year or the year before, I was outside making sure all my group got in, and I think there's something like 1,400 people through the door in the first hour. Before 11 o'clock. It's amazing.
I was speaking to the security, and they were like, "It's not usually like this. People don't turn up till well after midnight." But the main room is proper going by midnight and by 11 o'clock. I mean,
I love it, but I think it's the new Cream closing party. I think if anybody remembers Cream closing party at Amnesia, it's the same vibe. It's probably the same people, to be frank. And it's great.
Yes, it is.
We're just 20 years older.
And then we have obviously we've been doing God's Kitchen. We did a God's Kitchen return in Birmingham, and that's coming over again this year. Which is tagging on to the end of the week.
I'll be supporting that and bringing a group out for that as well. And I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, usually I say to people, we'll do one night in Sardines, one night in Eden, one night. I won't do 2 nights in one club.
Yeah.
But apart from if it's Amnesia with God's Kitchen, it's like all bets are off.
Yeah. I mean, it's a complete. By the time this comes out, I imagine some of the lineup would have started to drip feed through, and it's a completely different lineup, and it is very God's Kitchen.
Yeah. I know what the lineup is, but
do you know? You've been speaking to Nick, but it's I think but it is very different as to the Kevin and Perry.
But what I like about it is I think it's informed from we said who would you like to play on the God's Kitchen Facebook group, and I think what came in there, I think as I understand it, the top 2-3 names that were mentioned most are the ones that Nick's booked. It's great because it's from the people, and that's what a rave and a club should be.
It's so important, especially with trance and especially with that demographic, because they can be very picky, and also we haven't really reached into this a lot, but social media it has changed a lot, and if you get you can get 1,000 amazing comments about an event, and you can get 2 or 3 really shit ones, and they can really start rolling, and take over a thread, and we get rid of them as soon as we can, because it's just not worth it. Someone's had a bad night, fair enough, but social media, how do you think that's affected Ibiza and the general dance
generally scene? I've got to say, I always tell the truth. I think in a negative fashion, I think that the whole Instagram thing, and it's all about posing, and I mean that mirrors why daytime clubbing is so popular. Because you look shit at 3 o'clock in the morning with red eyes going,
and it's brighter, better photos.
You can look great. I mean, I think it's really telling that Ibiza Rocks, they wanted a makeover for the Instagram generation, and they paid who knows how much they paid, and the thing that came back was paint round the poolside, paint it pink. Right, paint it pink, because when you on Instagram, people immediately recognise it as Ibiza Rocks. You won't have the branding in every single shot, but you'll be the only hotel in Europe with pink surround, and it's a genius move, because as soon as you take a picture, people go, "Oh, it's Ibiza Rocks, yeah, it's Ibiza Rocks." But generally, I think that social media has been bad for clubbing. because it steals the moment, and it makes people consider how they look. You know, there's that saying, isn't there? You know, dance like no one's watching.
Yeah.
Unless you get past to my age, in which case it's dance like no one's laughing.
Yeah.
But with Instagram, it's difficult. There's always some git with a phone when you lose yourself in the lasers, going, oh, he's really enjoying himself, and I hate that. You know, it should be about release. It should be about, you should be on that dance floor. You should be able to lose yourself and not have somebody filming you every move.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this conversation that I feel that, especially with Ibiza was a very select group of people who used to go there for the music, for the party, to get off their nuts and enjoy themselves, being paradise. Now, Facebook came along, and all of a sudden, it bridged that gap, and it showed all these other people that weren't technically into this sort of wonderful world, what it was all about. And slowly they started coming. And that's when it all started changing, for me anyway.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's, going back to the song that I'll be releasing this summer, you know, re-releasing, it's Sardines in Pacha. You know, it's about a guy called Stan Antonio. You know, it's a creation I had, and it basically he's a fashion victim. So he goes to the island, and he just falls for everything. So, you know, he goes, I've got my Dayglow t-shirt because I'm a trendsetter. I've just made a hefty transfer payment to the bank of David Guetta. I bought a bed in Ocean Beach to pull a bird from Made in Chelsea, but all I got was overdrawn and a Wayne Lineker selfie. You know, he's this guy that just, you know, he's chasing the wrong things. You know, he should be there for the music, not to try and pull a bird from Chelsea. And when he does get down there, he's more interested in chasing around Wayne Lineker for a selfie.
So rewind a bit. You're bringing out a song. Talk me through this a bit more.
Okay, in 2012, I wanted to write a song about what really happens in Ibiza.
Yes.
You know, right, because all the songs about Ibiza are about the sensuality and about the magic and the vibe and the energy and all of those things. So I wanted to write a song, which I can perform on my guitar. We can do it like an outtake and clip, and if it's any good, we can use it.
Send it over. Yeah.
So I wrote a song called Sardines in Pacha.
Okay.
And Sonica Radio called it the worst song about Ibiza ever written.
Great.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You know you're onto the right track because
exactly.
You know, they are completely what's wrong with it. Everything's really serious, and you know. And so you know,
what a compliment.
So you know, I mentioned like the freshen up men, you know, and every now and then I see the freshen up men who will wisely tell me, no spray, no lay, no cologne, or you'll go home alone. And the chorus goes, when you should be playing sardines in Pacha. After blagging in a shrine to see Sasha, and I'm waving goodbye to my Kasha. I'm just playing sardines in Pacha. And of course, we came to film the video, and Pacha wouldn't let us film in there for some strange reason.
We are having this overlaid in this podcast without a doubt, and obviously we're going to have it on Spotify as well. It could be a hit, Kirk.
That'd be great. It was 2012 when it was first written, but I have updated it. But as I say, I'll get my guitar out at the end and give you a thing. But one thing I wanted to say, actually, Dexter, was we talked about quite a lot of the clubs, but I think when you said what's the most special club, and I said Amnesia.
Yeah.
There is another one that sadly we've lost, and that is the same vibe, the same energy, the same spirit, and that was so good they named it twice. I'm talking about Bora Bora.
Wow. Yes. We used to say, if Bora Bora was a club, which it wasn't really a club, it was a beach bar. We said, if it was a club, it'd be the best, it'd be voted the number one best club in the world. We used to say this in the 2000s, very early 2000s, when it was just started popping after the Manumission, after
Space. Yeah.
I'm speaking with DJ G tomorrow.
Fantastic. Send him my love.
I will indeed. Yeah. I'm speaking with him tomorrow. I was meant to speak to him last week, but unfortunately I had a rather bad taste of the
really.
So yes, so I've had to abandon that, and I'm talking to him tomorrow about his journey through Bora Bora. So it's good timing, but it was our favourite place.
Yeah. When it's closed, I wanted to mark it. And I thought, so I wrote a little poem about Bora Bora, which I could do now if you'd like to.
Please, yes.
Okay, so it's called Bye Bye Bora Bora. We did like to E beside the seaside. We did like to E beside the sea. asking what's your name, where you're from, what you done. As a guy dressed like Spider-Man danced to a tribal tom. Just on frontier met Eurotrash. French and Germans out on the lash. Italians smuggling budgies in tiny, tiny speedos, surrounding bare silicon breaths like thirsty mosquitoes. If you go, make sure you inform your next of kin. But just like the tide, the dealers are always in. Groups of lads slyly keying their noses, voguing pretty boys striking poses, pickpockets mingling, darting eyes, waiting for the moment you're watching the skies. A mighty roar, the very air vibrates. Witness the joy a jet's undercarriage creates. The sun now gone, the night comes quick to those looking for an early evening lift. Tribal house, tunes on the dunes, but Jimu's legacy has gone far too soon. Oh, we did like to E beside the seaside, we did like to E beside the sea. The sun, the sand, the beats, the freaks. Best of all, it was free.
Wow.
Thank you.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Have you always been a poet? Or is this just off the back of the writing?
I'm a poet and I didn't know it.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to because it's a bit too cheesy.
It was. You set it up for me. I just think it's important to kind of record the culture, our culture, in words, because everybody always records it with a kick drum and keyboards. But I think with Bora, it's got. I wanted to capture these little vignettes and what it meant to me, and I think what it meant to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a magical experience. We were very lucky to be there at its peak.
Yeah,
I was there from right at the very beginning and all the way through. I remember the Garlands had a party there. Do you remember the Garland 2002?
Garlands made me do it.
It was crazy. I think I even went into work that night. Oh God!
And what about Kanye? Do you remember Kanye back in the day?
Yeah, the Garlands parties there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've spoken to Adam the other day. I'd love to speak to Barry.
Barry's doing Bambuku now.
He is indeed. We also had the lovely Dave Booth over for our very first 2019 One More Time holiday, who passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that was his last set in Ibiza, and it was at Kenya,
Wow.
which was awesome.
Yeah.
And he had a great night as well. He turned up in a cape and everything. It's just typical Dave. But yeah, it was. They were very, very special times. Now, what are you looking forward to this summer? There's going to be a lot of changes with the universe, and it's going to be a lot of swapping around, and a lot of brands moving, shifting, competition.
Do you know what? I think that I was thinking about this last night. There's certain things I'm looking forward to and certain things I'm not. And one thing I am looking forward to, and I'll tell you for why, is One More Time at Eden. And I'm not just saying it because I'm on the One More Time thing. I thought, no, the reason why it's important for One More Time is that the best nights traditionally in Eden have been celebrations, not educations, right? You look at my mate Dan used to do 20 odd years ago, used to do Dave Pearce's dance anthems. It was the best night for years.
Yeah.
Judgment Sunday was accessible. They play some hard house, they play some trance,
Right,
fairy,
everything.
And it's like it was a celebration. It was a party, right? It was a party. And I think looking at it, I thought, thank goodness, because some of the other nights at Eden are quite techno-y or whatever, and are very credible, I'm sure, very good quality.
Of course.
But I think when people, so someone who runs a holiday company, never ever forget that the rule number one is they've got to have fun. They've got to have fun. And I think, anyone going out on Thursday or Wednesday, I think it's a brilliant night. You look at that, you're going to have a great time there. So, well done for being part of that and putting that together.
We've really, really tried to aim at keeping the music quality on point and it being away from the DJs, it being about the audience. And every email that's sent, we send a reply. Every request is always responded to. And anything that goes wrong, we'll fix it. We look after the people that go through that door. And I like doing that, and this is kind of why we're doing the podcast as well now, because we are we have a good community.
Yeah.
And when I put a post up about a nostalgic post on One More Time or some of the other pages that we manage, we always get such huge engagement about the behind the scenes stuff and stuff that happened in the past. I thought, well, why not just talk about it?
I think it's a wise move. I think it's a good move as well, because there is a community there, and you know, one of the things, I just finished writing my book literally 4 days ago. I finished the last draft of it, and I was the epilogue. I finished the book a few weeks ago, but the epilogue was when you tie all the loose ends up and you kind of put a personal statement in there. And what I said was what you've just said there. That, you know, I genuinely care about the people that come on my holidays. I always have done.
You've mentioned this to me actually in Ibiza. You
Yeah.
said, we've got to do this.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's really, and you know, when sometimes people say, "Oh, I haven't got a sea view room. I want to speak to the boss." I'm like, "Well, I'm here." No, I want to speak to your boss. I am the boss. I want to speak to the person that owns the company. I said, "Well, that's me." What are you doing down here? I said, "Because I care." You know, I heard there was a complaint. So I've come down and sorted it out. You're going to be moved later on. The hotel should have put you in the sea view room. We'll make sure that happens this afternoon. Apologies. And it's like she's back down straight away. You know, I don't get anybody else to do my dirty work. It's important. If
Me
people,
too.
You know, if
Me
people
too.
invest in our holidays, if people want to put, you know, all that, we owe them that service to make it the best it can possibly be. And, you know, and that's what I've always done with Radical Escapes, my travel company. And I say, you know, I can't be a brain surgeon. I can't be a nurse or a teacher or anything that's really, really useful to society. So all I can do is put on a holiday. So I'm going to make sure that those holidays are the best it can possibly be.
Absolutely.
And I deeply care that the quality and the people aren't misled. And there's a level of service there that I would expect.
I'm really glad you say that, because this is what I do as well. I mean, if we have problems where, say, if we put the tickets on sale and the early birds and someone's had problems logging in, blah, 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 they message me and they're upset about it. And we'll do something. I don't know what it will be at the time, but to correct it once they're on island is like a compensation, you know?
Yeah.
And we've always done that. And on last year, I even got hired a moped out just to whiz around, just to make sure everyone had their boat tickets. People at last minute wanted to get their boat tickets because half the time they don't know where they are, you know? And
I know.
I spend most of my time either on the moped or in the hotel room because it's literally always work. So I think how long have you run the week for now?
Well, I started Radical Escapes in 1999, and I did my first Ibiza holiday in June 2001. It was the first kind of group holiday with a wristband with all the things included in it that, you know, that a lot of people do now. That, as far as I know, I was the first to do that. I mean, I think Nicky Holloway did it in 87 and 88. That was just like 200 people went over on a plane and then went back again.
Yeah, probably.
Mine was
his mates from the clubs.
Yeah. But I think
yeah.
mine was the first one was advertised with a lot of Australians used to come over, sort of 500. I used to think called Ibiza Heat that ran for 13 years, and 500 or 600 Aussies had come over in June, and we just take over the island. We'd decamp down at Kanya, and we'd go to Cream, we'd go to Judgment, we'd go to Renaissance. It was an amazing week, and so, you know, that's how it started, and there's so many stories you can imagine. If there's 500 people,
the Aussies
be naughty, you can imagine the amount of stories. And I think you're going to love it. You can a lot of things you'll be able to it'll resonate with you. You know, people getting things wrong.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, my favorite one. You know, I do this thing called Behind the Brochure. I mean, I shouldn't really be telling this, but I'll divulge one anyway. So we say to people, you know, especially people that have been away for the first time, you know, people have never been, they're a nightmare because they've never had a passport before. So invariably they lose their passport.
Yeah.
So we say to people, look, as soon as you get there, put it in your safety deposit box. Forget about your passport, put it in the safety deposit box. And then right at the end of the holiday, there it is. Because you'll wake up on the next morning and go, oh, shit, I've got to get to the airport. Where's my passport? It's in the safety deposit box. So this girl had lost her passport, and she's like, "Oh, I lost my passport. I don't know where it is." I said, "Look, keep looking for it. Ask your flatmate. Turn it inside out." If she couldn't find it, I said, "Right, you're going to have to go through to the British consul. You're going to have to pay for an emergency travel document. That's going to be £100. It's going to cost you £100 in a taxi there and back. You need to do it today because it takes about 24 hours to do all this kind of stuff." I was telling her, and then I get a call at the morning that she's leaving. She goes, "No, I remember where I put it. I remember I put it in the safety deposit box, like you said." I said, "Brilliant." She goes, but I can't remember the code. I said, don't worry. Just go down to reception, tell them what happened, and Jaime from behind the reception will go up, and they've got access. Well, how can they access it? I said, because they're the hotel. They can access it without...
yeah.
Oh, right.
Awesome.
So anyway, the next thing is I get 20 minutes later, I get a call from Jaime from the hotel going, Kirk, just to let you know, I went up to the girl's room. She has now left for the airport. I said, right, so you got her passport? No, there was no passport in the safety deposit box. I'm like, what? No. I said, but she said it was in there, Kirk. I opened it and there was none there. She's now gone to the airport. I said, she's gone to the airport without a passport? Yes. She's insisting that they'll let her back in the country because she's got to babysit and she's got childcare on Monday. And they said, there's no way they're going to keep a single mum in Ibiza. I was like, oh my goodness. So I thought, right, I'm going to have to get on my moped and go to the airport now because she's going to be causing merry hell down there.
Yeah.
So I get on the moped, I'm driving, and the phone keeps ringing. I'm on my moped. I'm like, I can't answer the phone when I'm ringing. Get to the airport, 4 missed calls. I pick it up, and it's the hotel. They found a passport. So where was it? It was in the microwave.
It just sounds about it sounds about right. It sounds about right for Ibiza.
It's like it's like 20, 25 years of those kind of things happening. So they've got to be in a book. Really.
I've sometimes I just feel like when the messages I'm getting through, I'm always very polite. It's just like you don't really need to be asking me this.
Yeah.
You're a grown adult, but I've since got into that since running socials that I treat everyone like a 12-year-old now, as in talking in simplistic terms, not patronizing, just like do this, this, then this and this, because things online can get so badly misconstrued that I always write like a 12-year-old.
You and Nick have done a great thing. I mean, I said to Nick some time ago, I said, look, it's my last ITE, my last Ibiza.
Yeah.
I was gonna stop.
It's my last one every year.
Yeah. And so he started ramping things up on the holiday side and things. And I was like, and then I sort of turned around and went like, I'm coming back again. I'm coming back again one more year. And it's like, because the feedback I get, it's like, I come back. I said to my wife, like, do you know, the people really appreciate me looking after them.
It's afterwards,
and you get tapped on the back. People shaking your hand as you're walking through Ithaca. Thanks a lot for a lovely week. And it's like, wow, how can I stop doing this?
I get that completely because I don't really get to see the events. I find them stressful. I don't drink, obviously, as well. And that used to be my coping mechanism. But I love the after effect, the afterglow, you know. So I always say to myself, I ain't doing this for another year.